Don't tell anybody I'm recording from the workplace. Okay, I could actually be suspended for this. This is just a quick one, and I would like us to talk about something very important. There was a question about a week or so. One asked me if someone could return, someone who has been banned from, an expat who has been banned from the country, return. I made my research and this is what I got. Actually, I replied to his message and I'd like to share that with you here. Maybe you might be one of those people who are facing such problems. If this is your first time hearing there could be a ban on you, like from entering the UAE, I think you should know this. You know, there are several reasons that can lead to you being banned from entering the country. And such reasons may include, criminal offenses such as rape, violence, rash drinking, and then alcoholism. Like anything that is of violence, anything that is of criminal records, and also breaking government rules. They could actually lead to a ban. First of all, you would be deported from the country, and then afterwards, you'll be banned from entering the country. I would like to tackle bans that are based on absconding from work. Can you imagine I was recording this part of the video yesterday without just recording nothing? Like I was recording nothing. Anyways, thank you and welcome back to the channel. You can actually be deported and then a ban can be applied, like you can be struck with a ban when you do any of these things that, as I mentioned earlier on. But our main discussion today is going to be based on absconding from duties or absconding from work. Abscondence actually has to do with you not going to work after your sponsor has applied for residency for you, where you need to attend duties and you refuse to go for duties, and then you don't write any kind of letter to your employer seeking any form of permission from absenting yourself from work, which is very bad. There's been instances where some people, as a personal experience, I directed someone to a company in which he had to go and work for the person, but on getting there or on reaching the company, he later found out that the kind of salary they were giving him wasn't enough for him. You understand? So he decided to stop working. Meanwhile, the company had already processed his visa. They've done everything. He's got his Emirates ID. He's got his labor card, and then he decided to just stop work. Like, he stopped working. He only worked for the company for, I think, 3 months. After taking 3 months salary, he decided to stop working. That is one main problem. That's one main reason for your sponsors here in the UAE, or employers here in the UAE, taking your passports whenever they start working with you, even though they take the passport for good reasons, as in renewing your visas, stamping your visas, and then sometimes they need your passport for other documentations and things like that. So if they take the passport, they take it purposely for these reasons. But some employers also take your passport due to the reason that as you're working with them, you might stop working with them, or you might seek other jobs rather than theirs. So they keep your passport, and in case of any kind of criminal activities, or you absenting yourself, or you trying to abscond, they use your passport in finding you. Like, they find where you are. Now listen, if you find yourself in a job or a company which you are not interested in, I would plead with you, don't try to play smart. If by trying to play smart, that means you're trying to tell your employer that you are much intelligent than he or she is. Okay, if you find yourself in a company and you don't like that company, you just talk to them, speak to your company amicably, which is after you've been able to secure yourself a better job. You talk to your company amicably. They understand what you're trying to do, like make them understand that maybe you are not interested in the job. Most of the contracts that you sign here in the UAE are limited contracts. I'm going to treat that in the next video. They are limited contracts, which means they have end dates and then beginning dates. That makes it impossible for you to cancel on your own without without both of you having mutual understanding. You understand? So if you find yourself in such instances, or you find yourself under such contracts, you can't just stand up and say, no, I don't want this company anymore, I just want to cancel. No, you can't do that. So you need to talk to your employer, talk him in, make him understand your situation or conditions, make him understand. Just, he's human, he or she is human. You might understand, you might give you that opportunity to change or switch jobs. If you're supposed to pay any fines, your new employer can pay that for you, and then he will use that as, he will be deducting from your salary with time. We will discuss the new labor law, and then we know what happens after you try to switch a company, or when you try to switch jobs. that would be within the course of the week. So if you don't need your job anymore, or you don't like the kind of job, or you find a better job than what you're doing currently, don't just stay at home. After 7 days, you could be struck. Your employer can report to the ministry, like the Ministry of Human Resource and Emeritisation, after 7 days of you not attending duties. If you refuse going to work for 7 days, your employer has every right to report you to the ministry, so that they can also track you down and find you wherever you are. If they find you also, if they find you, that is when they ask you for reasons as to why you don't come to work. If you don't give out any tangible reason, then your employer's plea might be considered. The only instance when people could actually get away with such bad behaviors, like being employed by someone yet they run away from their duties, and then they stop working with their employers without being banned or being deported, is when your employer doesn't really care about what you're doing. Like, there are employers who are like, they don't care, like they don't want to do anything they don't want to harm you in any way. If you find an employer like that, that is a different issue altogether. He or she can decide not to mind you. Fine, if you won't work, it's up to you. That is your own cup of tea. Meanwhile, maybe you have a family back home to feed or something of the sort. So if you won't work, it's up to you. But to the extent of you working with someone else, or you not attending his job or not attending duties, and then he forgets about it, he or she forgets about it, that means he doesn't want to, mind you. You are free to go with that. But if your employer decides to act upon the laws of the country, that means he could report you to the ministry, and then you would be tracked down, and when you are found, you will be deported. Based on your employer's report, you will be deported, and then you will be banned. Okay, after you're being banned, if it is work issues, I learned you could actually take a re-entry after 1 year. After 1 year, you could re-enter into the country. But with issues based on criminal records, like rape, rash drinking, criminal records, records that could actually tarnish the image of the country, man, you might face indefinite, ban. With all this being said, I need to show you what you can actually do to regain your entry into the country. Fine, if it is not a minor crime, or if it is not a minor thing that has a time frame, like you could re-enter into the country in maybe a year or two or something of the sort. If it's indefinite, the only thing, or the only action you could take is to find someone who is already in the country, like let's say a relative who is already in the UAE, or you find a friend, a trusted friend, who can actually take on follow-ups as to following up on your case as to whether your ban is being waived or being removed, or it still exists. You understand? So if they are able to do that for you, if your ban still exists, that means you could actually appeal through legal means. You could appeal for reinstatement, whereas you will be called back, or you could gain re-entry into the country. If not, then that means that is the end of you. You can't re-enter into the country, and then that means you need to look elsewhere for your whatever you want to come and do in the UAE. Okay, so that is it for your question, as in whether you can gain re-entry as an expat after you're being banned from the country. I suggest you just give someone the power of attorney to check for you. If it is possible you could re-enter into the country, then why not? You can re-enter. But if it is not removed, or it has not been removed, that means you'd have to appeal. After you appeal, if you're being accepted back into the country, lucky you. But if you are still refused entry into the country, then you don't. Or no, you're not doomed. You can still apply for visas from other countries, which I am going to do in my subsequent videos, whereas you can apply into working with other countries. So that is it for today. My microphone, it took me about 3 days to record this particular one, and my microphone actually messed me up, so I had to take about 3 days in recording this. I'm glad this is going to help you out. I hope it answers your questions as to whether you can return into the country after a ban. If it does, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are a new viewer. And if you're already a subscriber, Thanks very much for staying tuned and for being with me. I thank my new subscribers. I have seen the improvement in the channel. Thank you very much for joining us. I promise and I hope we all enjoy ourselves here on this channel. I'm going to bring you the best of what you expect from Dubai and around the world. Thank you so much for joining us. The name remains Kofi Dechi, and see you on the next one.